Hagerty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Monica, I'd like to start with you. It's been a pleasure to know you for this past decade. Your work at Treasury, I must say, was exemplary, and your foundation in foreign affairs, dating all the way back to your time spent with Richard Nixon, I think underscores your diplomatic prowess and your preparation for the job to come. I'd like to first speak to a point that you just raised regarding soft power. And to say this, that Joe Nye, who was the head of the Harvard Kennedy School, has made that term quite popular. He helped me in my previous role as U.S. Ambassador to Japan to think about how to deploy soft power. But one thing is very obvious, and Senator Perdue mentioned this. Soft power is only effective to the extent we have hard power underlying that. That means having our assets in place. That means having the right technology and the right interoperability in place. And I know that this administration is working hard to get to that point. Back to the present, though. Having spent time myself with President Trump in the presence of Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Narendra Modi, multiple European heads of state, certainly Shinzo Abe, I can say that the role of the chief of protocol, is tremendously important. Setting the stage for the engagements that need to happen, setting the stage for diplomatic success is going to be absolutely vital. And I think you've got a very strong team. I think of Abby Phillips on your team, who hails from Tennessee. I look forward to the fact that you're going to be called upon in an extraordinary time to set the tone and to set the environment so that critical national security and economic security issues can be taking place. I also look forward to the role that you'll play in the 250th anniversary of our nation, because I think it creates a tremendous diplomatic opportunity for us. One thing I'd like to ask you is, what do you see in your role ahead, if you're confirmed, as the biggest opportunity for your organization, that should you be confirmed to lead it?
Well, thank you very much for the question, Senator, and for your friendship, and Chrissy's friendship as well. I appreciate both of you very much. And it's a really important question. I take the responsibility of the role of Chief of Protocol extremely seriously. The big responsibilities, as you point out, Senator, that go along with setting the stage for a new gold standard for robust, successful, effective diplomacy for this president, for his diplomatic vision, and for his diplomatic and policy agenda. So if confirmed, I look forward to leading the team of the Office of Chief of Protocol, which is incredibly talented and dedicated, and it's made up of really dedicated political appointees as well as career civil servants. I look forward to leading that team together, making sure that they all work in harmony for our shared mission, our shared goals, and to ensure excellence in every detail, to create the proper environment so that the President, the Vice President, the Secretary of State, and other high-ranking officials can carry out their diplomatic duties in service of the United States and the American people.
Well, I know that the President has the highest expectations, and you'll rise to the occasion to meet those. Thank you very much. David, I'd like to turn to you. Congratulations again on your nomination. One of the things I wanted to point out is when I served as U.S. Ambassador to Japan, one of my top priorities was taking care of my staff and their families. And one of the things, and I've mentioned this in this committee before, one of the things that's most disturbing about the treatment of our diplomats in China has been the way they've been treated. It was earlier discussed the fact that they're not allowed to travel freely. If I think about what happened during COVID, they put some of our staff in containers, held them in isolation in moldy hotel rooms. They took stool samples from them, blood tests for them. I just think it's totally egregious what took place. And in my view, it's just wholly unacceptable. I know that you'll do everything that you can to protect U.S. diplomats and their families in China. I'm just going to ask you this question very quickly. If you receive reports of harassment or abuse, will you immediately report those not only to the Trump administration, but to this committee so that we can act upon it?
Absolutely. In my conversation with the ranking member, this came up as well, and I made that similar commitment then.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like to turn to China and their participation with Iran in purchasing Iranian oil. In recent years, over 90% of Iranian oil exports were purchased by China. As I've discussed many times in this committee, the Biden administration's non-enforcement of sanctions against Iran has provided that regime with over $100 billion that they have used, therefore, to go out into the Middle East and foment terror and insecurity. President Trump intends to actually enforce sanctions against Iran. And last month, his administration announced sanctions against the Chinese Teapot oil refinery. That refinery was buying and refining hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Iranian crude oil, and it's the first time that the United States has actually sanctioned a Chinese oil refinery. Some of this oil was even imported to China by ships linked to the Iranian-backed Houthi regime, the same terrorists that are attacking U.S. personnel, commercial vessels, and certainly our ally, Israel. It's yet another example of how Biden's non-enforcement of sanctions funded the very problems that we're spending billions to address right now. So if confirmed, David, do you commit to conveying to the Chinese government in the strongest possible terms that the United States will not tolerate Chinese activities that finance Iran and its terrorist proxy groups, especially those terrorist groups that attack the United States and its allies?
Of course. Along with protecting American personnel in China, this will be one of my top 5 priorities, Senator. Let me say one more thing about this. This is a broad topic. Number one, our sanctions are beginning to not work. The Chinese-Russian trade right now, the sanctions aren't working there on dual-use equipment, primarily because they're denoting those transactions, as you know, in rubles and in renminbi. Also, this is a very perverse conversation that you bring up here. I'll be very brief. The consumption of China goods takes money to China. 73% of their oil consumption is imported. They buy it primarily from Russia and Iran. Those dollars then go to Russia and Iran, and we know how that money ends up in the Ukraine and in Hamas, Hezbollah, and Houthis' war chest. So we have got to rebalance the world. This goes back to the trade conversation that President Trump is on right now. It's all a big geopolitical strategy that ties in exactly to what you're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and also thank you, Senator Scott, for letting me go out of order.